Hey everyone, happy Thursday, April 24th. It's a little bit before 10 a.m. on the West Coast, and it's time for another market update. Well, we've entered, I believe, week three of all the tariff drama, and we really still don't know what's going to happen. Obviously, from day to day, new news comes out. I think the newest thing this morning was that China said that we haven't even started negotiating yet. So the markets are all over the place, depending upon what that piece of news, what President Trump says, what China says, what the markets say. So those have been all over the place. The newest thing this week had to do with Chairman Powell, the Fed chair. President Trump over the weekend indicated that he wanted to get rid of Chairman Powell. And the markets didn't like that. The markets aren't huge fans of Chairman Powell, but or Fed Chair Powell, but they also want the Fed to be independent from the government. And in that case, if President Trump stepped in and fired Powell, the markets didn't like that. Markets responded very negatively over the weekend into the early part of the week. Yesterday, I believe President Trump backtracked on that and said he will not be getting rid of Fed Chair Powell before the end of his term, I believe next May. And the markets reacted positively. So still lots of drama, still changing day to day on all that stuff. We obviously don't have any control over that, so we just got to kind of hold on tight and see what happens with all that stuff. As far as data goes, this week we did get March starts and permits. Like we've talked about before, this is a good indication of future supply. So, the first thing they're going to do before, we have a new house is they're going to pull permits and then they're going to start the home. They're going to construct it and then it's going to be complete. And as you can see, permits were slightly down, or I'm sorry, a little bit up month over month, slightly down year over year. Starts fell a lot, almost 11.5% month over month, still up about 2% year over year. Construction down month over month, down 15% year over year, and completions up a little bit, almost 4% year over year, but down month over month. So again, this is our first indication of future supply. Starts, we know that for sure once they start it, it should be completed. We're about 1.32. Household formations, which had been running in the 1.5 to 2 million range for a while, has started to drop. So we're starting. If this number is above that household formation number, which is about a million right now, that means we are starting to tick into that backlog of the housing we need. So for a long time there, we were actually operating in a deficit, and now we're at least starting to make some headway on all the new houses and apartments we need across the country. So good to see that the construction industry is helping out there. Next thing, we got March new home sales. So these, kind of related to the last one. This has to do with new homes, not existing homes, not homes that were already, owned by someone. These are brand new homes, and they surged month over month, and a lot of it had to do with lower priced homes. So as you can see, month over month, they were up 7.4%. They're up 6% year over year. This right now we're about 683. Going back to 2020, middle pandemic, it was at 822 when everybody was buying houses. Looking at the numbers, that's about where we are normally. I don't like to look at the pandemic era numbers, but if you go back and look at 2016 to 2019, that was somewhere in the mid fives to high sixes as far as for the month of March, new home sales. So again, new builders have kind of filled that gap when there wasn't a lot of inventory out there. And like I said, a big part of this jump had to do with them starting to build lower priced homes. And I know, just personally knowing, dealing with clients, there's a lot of need for those lower priced homes in, at least in the West Coast, and I'm assuming across the country. More existing home sales, so not new, but existing. That home that was already old, or sold or owned by someone. So these are a vast majority of the homes that we deal with in the industry. And this March came in the lowest March since 2009. Which we never like to see anything compared to that 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010 era. But yeah, down month over month, 5.9% to about 4.02 million seasonally adjusted annual rates. Year over year, we're down about 2.5%. Inventory ticked up again. It's up, I think, about 20% compared to last March. We're about 4 months, so we're still underneath what would be considered a balanced market as far as buyer seller, but definitely creeping up, definitely getting more inventory out there, which is good for buyers. Median sales price jumped above 400,000. I think for the first time in March. And up about 2.7% year over year. That number is slowing, so it's not going down. It's just not going up as fast as it was, which is good for people again that wanted to see home prices kind of stabilize a little bit. So overall, not a good number, not a good, lowest since 2009 or March of 2009 is not good. March usually starts the beginning of spring selling season, but obviously in our industry with rates being higher, all the tariff turmoil. People have 401ks. A lot of times they cash in to do down payments. That's not necessarily happening right now. Not a good thing for that number to be low. So hopefully, rates come down and that unfreezes that market a little bit. Initial jobless claims came in at 222,000. The estimate was 222,000. Isn't that interesting? I always find it how accurate they are or how consistent these numbers are. And then actually looking at this graph, you can kind of see here's the weekly numbers. I'll let you guess when the pandemic was. But as you can see, they've stayed pretty consistent for quite a while now. What is that, 3 years almost? And then down here is continuing claims. So people, getting on unemployment and then not getting off of it, basically. That's the one where we've seen a little bit more of an uptick. This number, like we've talked about, this is important because this is really going to be one of our first indications, true indicators that the labor market is slowing down. Labor market slowing down, Fed is more likely to step in and cut their rates. So where does that leave us? The average conventional last week was about 6.87. We're about 6.90. It hasn't updated this morning, so having a decent day. So I would say we're right about there. So, for a second there, we dropped down to close to 6.5. A couple times we jumped above 7, but for the most part, we've been in this kind of 6.8 to 6.9 range here for a couple months, it seems like. So be nice to make some headway there, but all this tariff stuff is obviously made things a little more complicated. Important dates. What do we got coming up? We got the big PCE inflation report next Wednesday. That's going to be an important one. Fed's favorite form of inflation. Let's see if it, is as much of a market mover, especially if some of this tariff stuff still going on. A couple days after that, we're going to be getting the BLS jobs report. Which again, the big jobs report where we'll get unemployment from. That will be very important. And then we got the Fed meeting on May 7th where they'll announce what they're going to do. Right now, I believe it's at like 3.5% chance they cut and a 96.5% chance they stay where they're at. A couple weeks ago, that go close to 50-50, 50% chance of cut. Right now, it doesn't look like they're going to cut unless these numbers, PCE comes in really low. The BLS jobs report, also unemployment spikes, and no jobs are created, and then maybe we get some positive direction in this stuff, or actually negative for the country. That's when the Fed maybe would step in and cut rates a little faster. But right now, it looks like no cuts coming up here in a couple weeks. So overall, again, lots going on out there. As far as all the tariffs and Chairman Powell and everything like that. So we'll have to see what happens there. Otherwise, I hope everybody has a great week, enjoys the sunshine, and if you need anything at all, please don't hesitate to reach out. Thanks, guys.